go ahead and get started with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everybody to the work session for the Shawnee County Board of County Commissioners. It is Monday, January 27th. I'm the chair this year, Aaron Mays. I represent District 3. On my left is Commissioner Bill Rippon, representing District 1. And on my right is Commissioner Kevin Cook, representing District 2. Good morning to both of you. We've got our county clerk, Lisa Schmidt, and our county counselor, Rich Eckert, joining us at the table today. So let's go ahead and dive in. Madam Clerk, first item, please.
All right, number 1, presentations, Extension Office Quarterly Report.
Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Candace Stiles, Director of the Shawnee County Extension Office. I'm here to just let you know kind of what we were up to the last quarter, October through December. We do different programs throughout the year, so I do thank you all for this time for letting us show what we do for Shawnee County. I do want to start, like I normally do, with our demographics. Because it's important for us, not only for our federal partners, so we can see who we're serving. Our ultimate goal is called parity, which means the audiences that we have look like the county that we are in. And I'm very happy to say last week I found out from K-State for the 3rd year in a row, Shawnee County reached parity for our entire program year. 2 years ago, we were one of 4 counties to do so. Last year, we were the only county to do so, and they've stopped telling me because I talk about it too much, how many counties reached parity in 2024, but we were one of them. Now, this is a wrapping up quarter for most programs except for 4-H. The new 4-H year begins October 1, so our agent Grace Weens was starting all over in this quarter. She had a new family meeting, really acquainting new families, parents, youth to the 4-H program. It is a bear. It has its own vocabulary. It has its own calendar. So really trying to get those families into what they signed up for. She had a club leader training for our project leaders and our community club leaders, and then youth officer leader training. If you have ever been to a 4-H club meeting, you know that it's messy. That is by design because the youth lead it. So at officer leader training, all the youth that were elected to be president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, all those fun offices of their clubs, learn what that role means and what they're supposed to be doing. They learn everything from how to make a motion to how to create an agenda. They learn in parliamentary procedure, you can adjourn the meeting at any time. They can start the meeting and then someone can move to adjourn. We do caution them though that if they do that, we will just restart the meeting. We'll just start it over again. She did report 152 volunteer hours for the quarter. And a new thing that they are doing, our school enrichment program reaches a lot of youth in Shawnee County. But if teachers don't know about it, they won't sign up for the programs. This is chicken embryology, ant hills, wheat kits, those programs that we bring into the classroom. And so our Shawnee County Extension Foundation sponsored scholarships for any new teacher doing a school enrichment program. They would pay for this first year. And they're not huge costs, the programs, anywhere from $5 to $15, but that's enough for a new teacher to be like, okay, I'll give it a shot because it doesn't cost me anything this year. And they had 27 teachers take them up on that. Community Vitality, which is my area, we had the 2nd annual youth pitch contest where young people pitched a business idea that they either have or that they are currently doing for cash prizes. We had 15 youth participate this year, and what really I was pleased with is they were youth from all over Shawnee County. We had youth from Washburn Rural Middle School, Topeka High, Topeka West, Highland Park, Hayden High School, all participate, and because we do this contest with partners, Omni Circle, Shawnee Startups, and Go Topeka, we did give away some pretty nice prizes. First place in this contest was $1,000 that youth could then put back in their business. And this is also kind of a prep contest for the Youth Entrepreneurship Challenge that we'll be having in February. Because YEC has 3 parts: a pitch, a trade show booth, and an executive summary. So the partnership that put on this contest recognized 4 years ago, when we were only getting 3 or 4 youth to sign up for YEC, we really needed to break it up and teach these youth these different parts and different contests for them to want to take on that larger one. And so far it's working. Sophia Diaz-Buezo is our new expanded food and nutrition agent, and they get the best stats. They have great surveys, and so they really get the impacts of the programs that they're doing. But what I put them all up here, all the good things that people are learning, but I wanted to share a quote from one of their clients that did the nutrition program at Mirror Inc. She said, "I'm now choosing more fruits and vegetables and less processed snacks. And making a menu has really reduced the cost of my groceries because I'm not impulsively buying food." And I was like, wow, we could all work on those things. So her programs are really making a difference. She has 4 nutrition educators, and this last quarter they did programs at the Topeka Rescue Mission, Mirror Inc., and Southside Filling Station. And then our horticulture agent, Lane Weens, he had dual duty. He was wrapping up his Master Gardener program, having that yearly recognition for those volunteers, while he was also preparing for his first time presenting Garden Hour, which is a statewide horticulture presentation. It's once a month, so only 12 horticulture people at K-State get to do one a year, and he got picked to do December's program on home hydroponics. That was the topic. He had, I think, 300 people log on when he did it, and I think it's been watched that many times on YouTube since. But that's really cool that Lane is already getting to do these things on the statewide level. But the Master Gardeners, I wanted to make sure to let you know that in 2024, they had 8,803 volunteer hours for the county, doing their mission, which is education through horticulture. That's 600 more hours than they served in 2023. And we have a lot of large volunteer groups, but per the numbers, Master Gardeners really put in a lot of work for our county. Lastly, I just wanted to say our Family and Consumer Science position is open, so we're going to be doing interviews for that in February, but we will still be coordinating the VITA free income tax assistance sites this year. I am helping the volunteers this year make sure that that happens. We have locations at the library, Rossville, CRC Center at Lundgren, and North Topeka site in the IBEWLU 226 building. If you're supposed to say any of that like a word, I'm not sure. But I did leave some brochures on the table. We have about 30 volunteers who just really like doing taxes. And they trained for a week in January. I went up and listened and supported them, and the questions that they were asking our presenters were way over my head. But happy to offer that program that's always does a lot for the people who use it. And I sent out 900 emails. I had to do it in 17 emails. I tried to do it all at once, and they were like, no, you're spam. So I broke it up to the people that used the service last year, telling them this is the schedule. We are going to be doing VITA again this year, so it is a very used service. And then do you guys have any questions before our ag agent Abigail comes and tells you more about the agriculture program right now?
Any questions?
No, not right now.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Abigail.
Okay, well, as Candace introduced me, I'm Abigail Gettinger. I work as the Ag and Natural Resources Extension Agent here. And the last time that I was here was about a year ago. I was just a couple of months into the job, so it's good to get to be with you all, getting to talk a little bit about what I've been up to this last month. So last year I had just presented that my overall goal in doing my work is to be able to improve the lives of the residents of Shawnee County in ways that are both meaningful and in ways that we can measure by connecting with residents in the county, learning what the needs are in the county, and then meeting those needs with the education and resources that we have available. And so I just wanted to bring it back to that goal as I talk about what I've been up to in January. So one of the big things this month was the 2025 Topeka Farm Show. And last year, the show director had reached out to me early in the year asking if K-State would be able to bring any live cattle to be able to do a demonstration. So since last year, we were planning to be able to have live cattle come to be able to do a demonstration on how to perform body condition scoring. And body condition scoring is a really simple tool that producers can take back to the ranch to be able to assess what energy status their cattle are in, which is really important if you think from a beef cattle standpoint on reproduction. You need to have an appropriate amount of energy for those cattle to be able to undergo those high energy events. And so this year, as you all know, we had a huge snowstorm, so we weren't actually able to have the cattle come. It wasn't safe to be able to get them out, but we pivoted and decided to go ahead and go forth with the educational sessions. So we're still able to do 2 days worth of educational sessions, teaching people about that body condition scoring as well as forage sampling. And so those were the two tools that we picked to teach about, because when you know what the energy status of your animals is, and you combine that with knowing what the nutritional availability in your forage is, you can take those two components and create a ration for your cattle, which makes a lot of sense. If you know what your goal is and you know that your cattle are too thin to meet that goal, if you know what the kind of like nutrition fracts that you think about on the side of a box of crackers, what that is for your feed, you combine those together, you're able to feed efficiently and know whether you need to dial back on the feed that you have or add more to be able to meet the energy status requirements that are needed. So we held 5 educational sessions on those 2 topics, and in addition to that, we did our regular interaction with people by holding a booth. So we had both an indoor and an outdoor area where we were able to meet people. And this was an exciting opportunity because it allows us to be able to dialogue with people in the community about what Extension has to offer and being able to offer research-based information. Multiple agents from across the region came to help out with this. And so we were able to reach 52 individuals specifically with our presentations. And then at the booth, we were able to either have an interaction, like an educational interaction with them or meaningful conversation, or hand out a publication that was specific to what they were needing with 154 other individuals. And so despite the weather, I was really excited about the opportunity to collaborate with the Topeka Farm Show, with the different sponsors that we had, and to be able to interact with the public in those different ways. And so that was one of the really large time investments that I was investing in this month. Something that I wanted to highlight as a follow-up is that we have hay probes that are available for checkout at the local extension office. So if individuals would like to have their hay tested to see what the crude protein or energy content, moisture content is, we have those. They are free to use, but we do have a $20 deposit just to make sure that they don't walk off. But that is a service that we offer through our local extension office that I wanted to highlight. The other thing that I spent time on this month was having our new Northeast area agronomist come. So Dr. Tina Sullivan, she just joined this last year. She is serving in that new role, and we wanted to be able to have her come in person to be able to visit with producers. And a lot of times we do presentations when we're thinking about doing programming, but I really wanted to just have an informal question time and to really build some community building and network building time. I think after COVID, it can be difficult for people to get together again, and we're still working to build that comfortability to do so. And so we just held an informal question and answer discussion time, kind of a group learning time for producers to be able to come in with any questions that are applicable to them right now, like fertilizer or seeding rates, anything like that. So we had 17 individuals that we were able to catch over that lunch hour time frame. We were actually answering questions for about an hour 40, and it was a pretty good discussion time. And so that was another one of my highlights from this month. Something that I wanted to try out was offering that time at lunch to be able to have that informal discussion time, but building in a couple of field slot appointments before and after, that if people wanted Dr. Tina Sullivan to be able to come out and look at a specific field or a specific question, maybe they weren't wanting to talk about it in front of the whole group, that there was an opportunity for her to be able to do that too. And so I just wanted to note that if there are individuals who have a specific question where they're really wanting an expert to be able to come out and evaluate the field. You can make a request for an appointment from Dr. Tina to be able to come by calling our office. It's going to be by availability, but that is a resource that we are able to request. And then I also wanted to highlight a couple of the upcoming programs that we'll be having this spring. So one is a Farm and Ranch Transition Conference that'll be for the area. They're doing multiple across the state. The one that will be in our area that I'm participating with will be in Lawrence. And that's going to be on February 27th. Having these conversations surrounding transition of family members or even to non-family members of the farm is really important. And so K-State is making that one of their highlighted programs. And so if people are interested, they can go to agtransitions.org to sign up for that. And then something else that's going to be coming down on March 13th that I'm working to put on right here in Shawnee County is a prescribed burning workshop. I received multiple questions from individuals last year about how to get started with prescribed burning. It can be something that's kind of intimidating if you don't have any experience with it, knowing what tools to use, how to burn safely, timing, how to do it if you're interested in wildlife, how to form a prescribed burn association. And so I'll be working with the Kansas Forest Service and Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks to be able to put on a local workshop right here March 13th. That'll be at the Shawnee County Public Library. And so those are kind of the upcoming programs that I have coming up. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to talk a little bit more about my program area. And I'll open it up to any questions.
Any questions?
Very busy, very, very busy.
Yeah, that's a lot. Wow. I'm glad you made it through that month.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Is that it from the extension?
I mean, if you have any other questions for...
I don't, but I didn't know if you had anything else you wanted to do. So, okay.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item under presentations is snowstorm response review.
Okay, so I requested to have a few select departments come in to kind of talk about their snowstorm response because it is something that I think it's important to show the public that, you know, it affects a lot of different parts of our county. It's not just clearing the streets, and so I know that our employees worked incredibly hard, and so I'd like to sort of showcase that a little bit as well. So I asked 8 different departments to come today, so let's keep it relatively short. So, but let's start with emergency management, if you don't mind.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Dylan Hart, Emergency Management Specialist with Shawnee County Emergency Management. I'll give you a brief overview of a timeline of what we did. So, January 1st, the National Weather Service of Topeka issued a winter storm watch for that upcoming weekend. And then on January 2nd at 1100, they held a webinar. Now, that is a time for them to sort of indicate to us their confidence levels of what they're projected to have in that upcoming winter storm. And that's really a time for us to sort of gear up, and that's when we know we got to start monitoring, start our processes for that. So we began to align with decision makers and contact partners via phone, email, text message, in person, and make sure that those lines of communication were open with all big decision makers. Additionally, in that, we were able to verify any changes in authority or leadership, and this included people like city, county, state, and other critical infrastructure and large organizations that are our partners. We also started duty officer scheduling to ensure that all situational awareness was at the highest point it could be. And one of the big things with that is our operations sections chief, Nelson Castile, would work overnights in dispatch just to make sure to continue to cultivate that situational awareness with the National Weather Service, any updates to that, the situational awareness of what was happening in the county at that time. And then pre-planning and preparedness efforts were encouraged and scheduled. We proceeded to use public notifications, specifically Everbridge, emails, sit reps, those again are cultivated by our operations section chief. Media interviews, Dusty went on the red couch just to let the public know of some preparedness things and what they should expect. And then any social media updates, which we share those sit reps through our social media as well. Some major concerns that we had that we were continuing to monitor as we went was that it was starting Saturday evening over the weekend. And so just making sure that any sort of large groups or activities that are coinciding with that time, that the organizers of that were aware. Could we make sure that we got what we needed out to them? And what possible closures might happen and what happens with those closures. So things like if I-70, and then churches, because those are often shelters for when the power goes out, and then hospital traffic issues. And then we began to monitor all of those closures, which then goes into analysis and decision-making for our county response. And some of that, when it comes to the county response for closures and stuff, is our team will wake up early in the morning, 4 a.m. around, and then we'll drive some of the major roadways within Shawnee County to sort of give a view of what we see there on the ground to help make decisions, which led into Sunday, January 5th, after the total accumulation of 14 inches by 1,800 hours. We continued to collaborate and meet with those partners I've already stated previously. And the decision was made on Monday by the commissioner chair at the time, Kevin Cook. And those then were, the closures were then put out to department heads and employees, which we utilized Everbridge to do that, as well as department call downs and policies and procedures. And then gave that to the local media by 1700 before that broadcast. And then on Monday, January 6th, we again utilized everything that we did the days before to help the decision makers on the closure for Tuesday after that. So that's a brief timeline. We did want to thank some specific people that we thought went above and beyond and helped collaborate with us to make those decisions for the safety of the members of Shawnee County. One, the Operations Sections Chief and Ambulance Compliance Officer, Nelson Castile. Shawnee County Refuse Director, Bill Sutton. City of Topeka, Braxton Copley. And the snowplow drivers that helped assist AMR and first responders to get those responding areas addressed. And Public Works for the dedication and service, especially the new employees at that time. All right, that's it for me. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. One of the hospitals had trouble with electricity at one point, and we had to divert our ambulance service over to the other hospital. Is that basically what happened in that?
I'll let the Deputy Director talk about that one.
Good morning, Scott Garcia. Nelson was supposed to be here with him being the ambulance compliance officer, but I know he was monitoring and working with the hospitals and AMR and wherever they needed to go. Luckily, that happened, I believe it happened before the storm kind of hit, so they were already in works on trying to get that up and going. But I know Nelson was working with everyone involved to make sure that there was no issues or anything. And as far as I know, you know, it went about as good as it could.
Yeah. Was the electrical problem was it just for that hospital, or was it?
I think it was just that hospital,
Just that
something to do with the, because I know, I want to say they had like a transformer or something
Okay.
going on, but I think it was just the hospital related.
Okay. It just made me think, if you had an outage in that area, you're talking about two hospitals.
Yeah, no,
if
it was
but-
within the
Yeah, but
facility.
if you did have a problem in that area,
Yeah,
you've got
because-
both of them down.
Yeah, I know that they were working with the generator and trying to bring it up and having parts
Okay.
go out, and so I think it was a specific to that facility.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one real quick. So there was, I had several people ask me about this. There was an alert that went out via kind of like an Amber Alert type of a thing about staying off the roadways, and it went out 2 days in a row. Is that something that's initiated by Shawnee County, or is that the state of Kansas that does that, or could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Again, I'll let this Deputy Director answer that question.
When it comes to that, I believe it was a state that put it out. They work with National Weather and As a county level, we do not put that out. The only thing we put out at the time was, other than sit reps, was the Everbridge messaging that we put out to the county employees. Because when that went off, it was, yeah, I think it was a state triggered day.
Okay, all right, appreciate it, thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
All right, moving along, let's go to Public Works.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Niehaus, Director of Public Works. From our standpoint, work started on Thursday, January 2nd. So that was 2 days prior to the start of the storm. We started preparing. We had sand salt mix. We were checking spreaders and plows. We were making sure our dump trucks were operational. So again, this started on January 2nd. We considered, I guess we finished our storm response on Tuesday, January 14th. That's when we finished clearing snow in the roundabouts. During the course of those 12 days, labor costs were $78,423 for a total of 1,924 hours. This is just field labor. Equipment costs were $142,687 for a total of 3,163 hours. And you might be asking, how can you have more equipment hours than you have labor hours? Well, for example, when you have a truck that has a snow plow on it and a sander on it, that's 3 pieces of equipment. So that's kind of the reason we have more equipment hours than labor hours. On materials, we had a total of $72,300. Again, this is just field application. We put down 291 tons of salt, 3,514 tons of sand and salt mix, 2,950 gallons of salt brine, 500 gallons of calcium chloride, and 4 tons of haydite in Grove Township. The work doesn't stop or isn't limited to the field. Our mechanics are there as part of our essential work team. They're there during the storm event, number one, responding to equipment issues in the field. We have a field mechanic that goes out and responds to these issues. And then we have our mechanics in the shop that are responding to equipment issues for any equipment that comes into the shop. Equipment support during the storm event was almost $24,000. Of course, that involves parts, but I don't have that number with me right now. To be frank with you, when the storm is over, even if we considered for us the storm being over on Tuesday, January 14th, our mechanics are continuing to make up for what happened during that event. I mean, as you can imagine, pushing snow and treating the roads is hard work, both for employees and equipment. And so there are a number of issues we had to address with our equipment after the end of the storm event. It's part of responding and, I guess, rebounding from the storm event, but it's also you're preparing for the next storm event. Your equipment is constantly needed, it never ends, so equipment comes in, we work on it, and it's ready to go out for the next storm event. We also lost a piece of equipment during the storm. We had a truck that was unable to climb a hill in southeast Shawnee County, somewhat stalled, slid backwards into a ditch, and overturned. That truck cost $147,000 in 2017, and it's going to cost $218,412 to replace in 2025. There's no insurance on that equipment. Lessons learned. Probably during the middle of the storm event, we had 2 issues that were related. Blowing snow. You could plow a road and 15 minutes later it was filled in. Question is, should we be out there? That's something we've been asking ourselves. In one hand, I think it's good that we're out there clearing roads the best we can. It's important that the public know that we're out there. On the other hand, we were probably just holding our own and really not making any progress during this brief period when the winds were at such high velocity, especially on those roads that are perpendicular to the direction of the wind. Another thing was visibility. There were times that I felt we probably should not have been out because of visibility issues. This was at night, when you had a lot of snow coming down and the wind was blowing so heavily. Besides the fact that we lost one truck, we did have an accident, 2 minor accidents. One was our fault and one was a third-party responsibility. So I think that's kind of a good summary. I look forward to any questions that you might have. This isn't all the cost. This is probably 90+%.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yeah. What are your priorities when you're cleaning roads? Do you try to go to schools first, or do you have anything like that, or are you just trying to hit them all?
We're trying to hit them all. We're focusing on the county road system first. And once we get to a point where we think the county road system is passable, then we'll move on to township roads. During our first response period, that was for 25 hours. That means people were at work for 25 straight hours. Now, one thing I want you to know is they weren't driving trucks for 25 straight hours. They were away from their home for 25 straight hours. We brought them in. Everything was ready to go. Again, everything was ready, operational. All they had to do was jump in their trucks and start moving. They know what their routes are ahead of time. They're familiar with their routes. They've gone over their routes, so there's no surprises. We called them in at some point, and they ate, they rested. There were a number of rest sessions. So I don't want the county or the public to think that we made people sit in a vehicle for 25 hours straight. They got breaks. They slept overnight. During that overnight process, we did respond to AMR requests or EOC requests to assist AMR to get emergency vehicles through. And so I think we did what we've always done. It's just that this time there was 14 inches of snow instead of 6 or 8 inches. And so it took a little longer. It may have been a little more painful and a little more costly, but we did the things that we've always done. So,
Any other questions for Kurt?
No.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move on to facilities.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nelda Henning, Director of Facilities Management. My staff started prepping Friday, making sure the equipment was available, that we had all of the product that we needed to put out on the areas that we treat. Facilities Management treats the parking lots, or the county parking lots around the courthouse and the sidewalks. They take care of the parking lot and sidewalks at the election office. The 2 health department locations at 10th Street and the J.P. Lewis location. So typically we have access to a truck from the health department that has a blade on it. This year that truck was broken and up at the annex and unavailable to us. So we operated off of 2 vehicles. We have a red truck with a plow and with salt spreader on the back, and then we have the Kubota. So I had one individual in the red truck plowing the parking lots as best he could and spreading salt, with the backup individual doing the sidewalks and the judge's lot, the smaller lot, with the Kubota. Once they got done, the red truck headed to the elections office, and the Kubota then took and did the 10th Street location and the J.P. Lewis location with the Kubota. They also did, at the J.P. Lewis location, there's a lot of sidewalk. They handled all of that with a snow blower. They started pre-treating Saturday, and then worked through Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. On Sunday, I had 2 other individuals come in to try to work the courthouse as best they could with a snow blower and shovels. It was just trying to, as Kurt said, we weren't used to dealing with 14 inches of snow and blowing snow. When we went to open the courthouse on Wednesday morning, we were facing 8-foot tall walls of snow pushed from the parking lots onto the sidewalks. So we were still trying to get that broken free for staff to be able to come park and walk into the courthouse. Also, we take care of the annex sidewalks. Because of everything else we were trying to do and being short-staffed, we didn't get to the annex sidewalks until Wednesday morning. But I had 2 guys working 4 days straight, 8 to 10 hour days with 2 backup on 2 days. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I will say, add to this, that after discussion we had last week, John Landon with the weed department is getting a truck outfitted with a blade and a spreader, and he will be our backup going forward so that we have more equipment available to us, and we won't be working 2 guys so much at that point.
Okay, and that's gonna go on a pickup truck or on one of their UTVs?
It's going to be on a pickup truck, correct? Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. I appreciate it. Thank you, Nelda. All right, let's do Parks and Rec.
Tim Laurent, Parks and Recreation Department. So I'll try to keep it brief, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. So we moved snow for about 11 days. We had 1,838 staff hours involved in that. We estimate that we spent an additional $35,841 on staffing for the event. That actually does not include our community center staff and golf course staff, so that's just our park maintenance staff, which does do the majority of it. The community center staff, so we talk a little bit about priorities. Our first priority is anything typically where we're going to have programs, where we're going to have people coming in. Those are the things we hit first. We got so much snow that most of our programs were canceled or postponed. We rescheduled. So that sort of shifted some of the priorities. But our community center staff do the sidewalks and things right around the building, and they really weren't equipped to deal with that level of snow removal, that much snow. They've got handheld blowers and some shovels and things, so that put a little bit more work on our park maintenance staff because they had to come in and do some of that because community center staff just weren't equipped. We estimate we spent an additional $2,000 in fuel costs, and as Kurt mentioned, our mechanics were on staff. We're there every day, very busy fixing things. We did have one sort of unique situation. Stephanie's listening. She can pull up my photo here. I got it. We did have an incident at Gage Park. So this we use as a shelter. This is over by the horseshoe area, the dog park. This was originally a trolley stop for the city of Topeka. I don't know the location, but at some point it was moved into Gage Park, and you can see our picnic tables there underneath. We used it as a shelter, but the amount of snow on it just toppled it over on its side. So what we're going to do is move this, probably put it in the compound at Gage Park for a bit, which we're also trying to get things out of the compound at Gage Park to move to the Florence property, but we'll store it there and then try to repurpose it in Gage Park. And my hope is that we could incorporate it into our mini train. It could be, I don't know that it'd be a full stop, but it could be. We've talked about doing that at the Carousel building and future renovations. So we don't want to see this go away. We'd like to repurpose it. But there is going to be some additional costs associated with this. I think just moving it is going to be fairly costly, and we'll have to end up moving it more than once. I don't think it's a situation where we can just set it back up where it is. It was kind of a unique design. I think it was essentially two probably telephone poles anchored in the ground, and then its structure was sort of just lowered down over those poles. And I think it lasted, quite a while, but I don't think we'd be able to get away with doing that again. So some additional costs that we're yet to know the numbers for. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
That is probably the only trolley stop in existence from the original system that they had in Topeka. And
Yeah.
I believe that one was from the Potwin area.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
It's a neat piece, so we'd like to keep it somewhere in the system.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Let's go with the jail. Brian? Sorry, yeah. Corrections, Department of Corrections.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I think we could sum it up in really one sentence of maximum resources were exhausted. That when it came to contracted services, all meals were served on time. Some of our menus were altered due to deliveries were not made during the weather those first 4 days. So we did alter. All meals met accreditation and national standards requirements, and then all health care was delivered, meaning that our clinics and everything went on, appointments went on as scheduled. We started out preparing for this emergency, much like we do for all of them, but at a bigger scale. We started staging all of our equipment in different areas that we could get out. In the Sally Port, into our work areas, things like that. We started notifying staff of for the crews on where snow was going to be pushed, where they were going to start, and then started because of our emergency management, our COOP plan designating what staff would be essential versus non-essential. So that was all done well in advance. City courts were while the courts were canceled, city courts went on during one day that the offices were closed. So staff that was typically non-essential became essential that day. I actually came in on Tuesday and helped with many of our executive staff came in and supported staff. The crews, they started working. I think Director Niehaus said it very good that there were a lot of concerns why didn't we start with the moving snow immediately with the wind and the amount. If we could have cleared things off and it would have just been there. The other things that lessons learned for us is that we don't have parking. So I couldn't just say everybody move parking somewhere else because we don't have a parking lot. So we had to maneuver around parked cars. The crews worked out. They worked many hours straight with adequate breaks, meals, and rest, which meant clearing off all of our sidewalks, all of our parking lots, all of our drive areas. Going to be working with emergency management on the announcements of our front lobby, because when I came in on Tuesday, there were people showing up at the front lobby, and so I directed them away and didn't want to see them out while we were in the middle of trying to move snow. Lessons learned, essential versus non-essential. We had several staff who couldn't make it in. A lot of it was because the roads were closed and they could not come in. We have several staff that live outside the county. But they did try to make as much arrangements as had possible to get here, to stay with a friend and things like that. But we worked with Angela Lewis and the union, that if I do have a non-essential staff person that's, say, in court transport that can come in, I will make them essential so they can support staff if we run into a staffing emergency, because we end up having about 23 staff who could not make it. We have daily, or in each shift, close to 30 individuals that have to work on each shift, and about, I think, 10 to 15 on the juvenile side. The blowing snow was very tough. We had staff that braved going home, but I'm working with Angela Lewis again, reaching out to the local hotels on looking at reduced pricing for staff that can stay there. And we use little to no overtime, And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed seeing was the staff assisting each other, shoveling snow to get away from the facility. They we had an officer that was non-essential who was picking staff up and bringing them to work and taking them home. And also some staff said, if you can't make it home, you can stay at our house. So we still, many might think that that booking would have been shut down. We booked 20 or 30 people during this time in the heaviest snow. So there was still work to be done there, but we did a remarkable job, and our staff followed protocol, and I was very pleased with their outcome. I stand for any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Brian?
How many people did you book during that snowstorm?
20-some.
20-some.
Mostly on misdemeanors.
Okay.
Yeah, driving while suspended, things like that. City warrants. Yeah.
Driving while suspended.
I have no words.
Okay. Any other questions for Brian? All right, I appreciate it, thank you. Lieutenant Wanamaker, does the sheriff's office want to speak at all today, or? You're not prepared? Okay, all right. He was off that day, all right.
Both days, but I know our guys were busy. I know our guys were helping stranded motorists. I don't have any stats for you because I wasn't prepared for that, but I know our guys did a fantastic job all the days that they were out there and along with the other county departments. I mean, we were right in the mix with it.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, let's do solid waste.
Good morning, Commissioner. Bill Sutton, Shawnee County Solid Waste. So not to reiterate the timeline, but we had enough advance warning that this was coming. We just did not know what the extent. And then with the plethora of emails that Nelson sent out, we soon discovered what the extent was. So the decision was made Sunday not to forego operations on Monday as well, because I did not want to put our department in jeopardy or the general public just trying to get our trucks out there. We've seen how the progression was with the road clearing operations. And then that Monday, in concert with both Angela and some of the commissioners, we made a decision to forego operations that Tuesday as well, just to keep off the roads and let the crews get a chance to get some clearing done. So what that did is that put us behind by 48 hours on our collection schedule. And thankfully, with enough communication with our media partners and social media, we got the word out to the general public. And for the most part, 99.9% of the population was appreciative of our efforts and attempts, what we was doing out there. What this did is that shifted our operations, and we ended up working that Saturday, and then we into the next week getting our Friday customers picked up as well. So everybody got their trash picked up and recycling, and it was just delayed by about 72 hours to 48 hours in some locations. Other than that, I want to commend the bargaining unit for working well with us. No issues there. And just want to give a commendation to both the road crews for cleaning, for their efforts in cleaning stuff up, and as well as our crews itself. We only had one incident, and that was in an alley that we caught a wire. And the lesson learned that really no one thought about is when you're driving on 14 inches of snow, that raises your trucks up. And we snagged a cable, and that was our only incident in and around the city and county. So hats off to those crews as well. The internal lessons learned that we did kind of discover, and we'll do better on next time, is again with that advanced warning, we have about 4 rest homes and nursing facilities that we service. Our other commercial businesses we're not too worried about because not too many people is going to be out there on the streets going to those establishments. But for those nursing homes, what we're going to do is on an event like this where we have enough warning is we'll go ahead and set an extra container out there just to help them with their refuse that they generate while they're still in business, so to speak. So other than that, that's all I have for you gentlemen. If you have any questions.
Questions for Bill?
No.
Well, Bill, I know that I've heard from multiple people around the community. They appreciate the communication that you guys do through your social media accounts. I know that folks get frustrated when their trash hasn't been picked up for 3-4 days, and I think everybody, because of the communication on there, I think understood the situation pretty clearly and knew that, I mean, I believe it was even a holiday kind of added in a little extra layer of complexity, and so appreciate you communicating with the public as best you can as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's have Angela, you want to kind of sum this up from an HR standpoint?
Sure. From an HR standpoint, the first thing that I need to say is thank you. Shawnee County's work never stops, and our essential employees are key to making sure that we can operate even in 14 inches of snow, and they did that, and they did it well. We did have a couple of incidences. We had 9 slips and falls between 1/4 and 1/13, and we had 6 vehicle accidents, and you heard about some of those. Some things were our issues, but there were a lot of these accidents where people just slid into the back of someone else. Thank God we didn't have anyone hurt. We did have 544 people who were paid weather-related closure over the 2 days that we were closed. That's 7,684 hours at a cost of $215,105.48. That does not include the overtime or anything that will come from work comp. That is simply the work-related closure hours. It also does not include the vacation that is given to our essential employees on top of the hours worked. We did have a lot of learnings from this storm. Most of the time we're dealing with no more than 6 to 8 inches, but with 14 it is a different ballgame. So we had sort of an after-actions review of this event with just a few of the departments: emergency management, DOC, facilities, Public Works, Solid Waste, and HR, just to see what we can do better for next time, and we're working on plans and working together to create some synergies. Like, Nelda cannot operate with 2 people and get everything done. In working with John Landon and his department and working with volunteers over at the Solid Waste Department and Public Works, they're getting their buildings cleaned faster, which will allow people to come to work. I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have for me.
Questions for Angela? No. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that, I think, is really all we're going to ask of our department heads today. Do you guys have any additional questions? Oh, John? Okay, come on up.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Landon, Director of the Weed Department. I just thought I'd elaborate a little bit on what we're going to do to participate and how we're going to help. So back in September, we started looking at a different vehicle to pull our drone trailer outside of the little half-ton truck that we have. And so over the couple months, we've been visiting with Kurt, trying to figure out, if we did this, went to a bigger truck to pull that trailer, put a snow plow and sander on it, is there anything we could do to assist? And so in the meantime, we've been working on that and got bids and got quotes. And so just so you know, Thursday we were going to come to the board to lease a vehicle with that equipment on it to assist. And so since they're meeting, then the plan is that we're going to assist facilities. That will give them the second truck and then the backup truck. Also, since the storm, we went ahead and equipped our gator. One of our gators had a snow plow and sander on it already. That was transferred over to Stormont Valley Event Center. The plow and sander went with it, so we're actually putting this plow and sander back on our gator to give them the flexibility to having a second gator at facilities and a backup. All these are also going to do our parking lot. I believe it's Shendel does Stormont Vale, and so sometimes they don't get to ours, and so we're constantly always doing ours. So we'll do that. We've had conversations with the Sheriff's Department to do the training facility and some of their buildings as well. And so I think it's going to be, a great plan. Everybody's going to work together, and we're going to assist. So.
Okay. Any questions for John? No. All right. Thank you. All right, anything else? Okay, well, I'll sum it up. I think that this is very informative, I think, not only for us, but for other departments, for the general public. I think a big thank you needs to go out to everyone who is involved. I think Angelo said 544 employees were somehow affected by this storm and their work, and that is a testament to, I think, the importance of the work that we do at Shawnee County. I just this morning had spoke with the folks in the new employee orientation down there. One of the things I always tell them is that, you know, this is more than just a paycheck when you come work for Shawnee County. This is important work. You're serving your neighbors, your friends, your family, and the stories that I heard from some of you about employees letting their coworkers come sleep at their house because they're having a hard time getting home, I think is touching, and it just goes to show the quality of our employees. And so I appreciate all the work that everyone did. Appreciate the public being patient with us as we work to kind of get through this tough storm that we had. And I hope that this meeting is informative and educational so that we can be better prepared for the next one. I think we did a fantastic job on this storm, but there's always room for improvement. And so I think this is great. So I appreciate everybody coming today. Any other comments on this item? All right, next item, please.
Item 2 on the agenda, public comment.
We didn't have anybody signed up for public comment today,
All right.
so
Item 3 then is administrative communications.
any administrative communications?
Good morning, Commissioners. Angela Lewis, Director of Administrative Services. Just a reminder to everyone that W-2s are available in HR for pickup by the director, elected official, or their designee. Please drop by and get them because we need to have everyone's in their hand by January 31st. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other administrative communications? Okay, next item, please.
Executive session.
So this is our first work session, or second, maybe?
First.
Okay, first. So we do have a need for executive session today. And our executive session will be for consultation with an attorney for the body or agency, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship. I would make a motion that we go into executive session beginning at 10 o'clock for a period not to exceed 45 minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner Cook. Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes 3-0. So we will go into executive session in a couple minutes, and we'll be back prior to 10:45. So.
We all got it.
Give Stephanie just a second. All right, we're back from executive session. No action was taken, so we're adjourned.